Hey, this is Greg Berger, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Today on episode 90 of the Cinema Geeks,
we take a look at what's in store for director James Cameron.
We discuss why you should or should not be excited for the Kingsman sequel.
And in our main attraction, we continue our video game film series by taking a closer look at 1994's Double Dragon.
All that and more coming up on episode 90 with the Cinema Geeks.
That's right, it's episode 90 of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your geeks, Optimus Solo. Joining me today, as you heard in the intro, is Hard Candy Mandy.
Yo.
Yo again? You
already
used that last week, I think.
I don't care.
The movie revolt, Dan, hello.
I'm not sure what I used last week, so I'm going to go with hi.
Seems you did not use that one, so that's fresh.
It's a classic choice, though.
Fridley Scent, how we doing?
Sup?
Sup?
I'm different than last week, because I don't say that.
We got to work on our intros, but
why is everybody hating on what I fucking say?
It's not you.
I have energy to say yo. So what you get is yo.
No, it was funny because I've listened back to a few episodes, and literally every single person uses the same thing every single time.
I can't believe
it. It was kind of fun. And I respond.
I'm not aware of this.
I respond in the exact same way to all of your same comments too. So I'm like, man, we could just literally record the same thing and play it.
Hey, if I could have been on the Batman v Superman, I had every intention of when you said my name to be like, why'd you say that name? But I wasn't there for that record, so I missed that joke opportunity.
Man, that is a travesty. Something good could have come out of that. Anyways, we're going to start by talking about some news stories from the past week, real quick before we jump into our Double Dragon discussion. We'll try to delay that as long as humanly possible. And we're going to start in the world of Avatar. We talked about in the opening about what is in store for James Cameron. I know this has been long rumored that there would be more installments of Avatar, but the recent revelation, I guess, if you want to call it, is we're getting not one, not two, not three, but 4 sequels between now and 2023. So Avatar 2, which was originally scheduled for this year, is actually going to be coming out Christmas of 2018. Avatar 3, Christmas of 2020, and then 2021 and 2022 for Avatar 4 and Avatar 5. And just to give you guys a little bit of some context for what's going on with these sequels, and this is a quote from James Cameron: "We've decided to embark on a truly massive cinematic process. We've begun to bump up against the limitation of our art form. There's just too much story." He added that each successive film won't necessarily follow on from one another, but instead work together like a cinematic universe. Each one of the sequels stands alone, but together form a complete saga, a true epic saga told in this rich, complex world. Dan, I'll let you react first.
I don't think there's a movie that has come and gone quicker and bigger than that of Avatar. Like, it's made $1 billion, but like, its impact on like pop culture is so minuscule, and I feel like at this point, it just, I don't know, I could care less about an Avatar sequel. I do actually like the movie, but I just, what was it, 8 years ago that the last one came out? And they've been talking about doing sequels forever, and then this keeps getting pushed back. So this is, to me, I'll believe it when I see it type of situation, because I feel like we keep hearing about all these sequels, but they haven't shot one yet. And
right.
I'm sure there's other sunken ships in the sea that James Cameron can go after and do documentaries on, so who knows if they're ever going to happen.
Nice. Well played. Yeah, like I said, the first original rumor was that our next Avatar would have been here this year, so that clearly did not happen. Two things about this for me. Number one, I think I would like this to be a lesson, a twofold lesson. The first lesson that I would like this to prove is, because I don't think the second Avatar is going to do nearly what the first one did, and I would like this to be a lesson of don't plan 3, 4, 5 sequels when you don't even know if your first one's going to be successful. And number two, these are all slated to be released in December, which means almost every single one of them will go against Star Wars. and I would like that to be a lesson that is not a wise choice. So
I mean, statistically, it's beating Star Wars in the worldwide gross.
I don't think Avatar 2 is going to compete with, let's see, that would be, I don't know which Star Wars we'll have in Christmas of 2018, but I don't know. Do we really want Avatar Star Wars battles every Christmas? Amanda, what about you? What about you? More Avatar fan or no?
I mean, I dug the first one. I've only seen it a couple times, but I think I would be interested in seeing a sequel, but I'm not so sure that we need 4 fucking sequels. I mean, if it...
You could say that. You could literally say that in regards to any franchise, just about. Except for, I'm going to go with maybe like Star Wars, James Bond, and not necessarily a need for 4 of them. I agree with you on that one. Matt, what do you think? Are you a big fan of the first Avatar?
Haven't seen it, don't care for it. Looks like Fern Gully.
It is. It's
I like Fern Gully. I like it a lot.
I liked Fern Gully too when it was like in the 90s.
The sequel? No, just
Oh.
But yeah. Okay, so let's move on from Avatar news. Let's get into the other thing we teased a little bit as far as the Kingsman sequel casting. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up on this or not, but I'm just going to go through all the names so far that have been linked to the Kingsman sequel. Colin Firth returning, Matthew Vaughn back as director, Taron Egerton, Mark Strong back, the addition of Julianne Moore, Halle Berry, and Channing Tatum, and wait for the last one, guys, Elton John.
Well, there you go.
Dude, Iggy Azalea was supposed to be in the other one, too.
So, Amanda, let's go to you first, because you're a big Channing Tatum fan. Also, obviously, the addition of Julianne Moore, Halle Berry, and Elton John. What do you think?
My first question is, how is Colin Firth back?
Don't ask.
Second of all, any movie with my boy in it, I am down for. I really did like Taron Egerton.
Is your boy Elton John? I'm gonna just...
Possibly. I mean, we boys.
I didn't know Chris Hemsworth was in this movie.
I do like Channing Tatum. I hope that he dances for me, shirtless at some point. Might not happen, but I can always hope.
I hope Elton John dances shirtless.
Oh, Jesus. Lord have mercy.
Dan, what do you think about the casting so far? And I forgot to give you the tweet that revealed this from Channing Tatum on Twitter here. I'm about to get all up in that golden circle. #Kingsman.
All right, well, there you go.
What do you think of the cast so far, Dan?
I'm just hoping Elton John plays the villain of some sort. That's the way it's going. But yeah, Colin Firth coming back. I don't know if that'll be like, I don't know, flashbacks or if it's some like sort of robot clone thing. But I don't.
The ghost of Colin Firth.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, so we'll see. I think the casting's fine. I think I like Channing Tatum as an actor. He certainly has comedic chops, and he can dance like no other, so that should be fun. So,
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
Matt, are you on board for Kingsman 2?
Well, unlike Avatar, I saw and liked the original Kingsman. I don't know that it needed a sequel, but I'm down until I know that it's not good.
It's good. It's a good motto, I think.
That's unfortunately the way a lot of sequels go, and it's usually pretty clear from either the trailer or from like the opening scene that you're not in for a good time. But all right, moving on to some comic book stuff. I don't know if this is necessarily news, but it has been confirmed by the head of the studio that a standalone Batman film with Ben Affleck is officially greenlit and ready to go. Dan, are you excited to see more of Ben Affleck as Batman?
Yeah, actually I am. I am excited to see him, especially if he's directing it and writing it. And I did like him in that film. I thought he portrayed the character well, and I do think they give a lot of hints over to like how he became that Batman. So I'm just curious if it's going to be more of a flashback, if it's in the is it after the events of BVS, is it a kind of combination of both? But yeah, I'm all for it. I'm much more excited for another Batman movie, honestly, than I am for Justice League.
Matt, you were not a big fan of Batman vs. Superman, but not a lot of people were, yet there still seems to be a lot of people still excited for either Justice League or these other projects. Is a standalone Batman film amongst the projects that you would be excited for as well?
I think Ben Affleck was top 2 greatest things in that movie, and I think he will be a great Batman. And I'm sure a lot of the haters shut up after they saw it, because he was like the least bad thing in that whole movie. And hopefully it does explain Batman. That will get rid of a good third of my issues with Batman v Superman, is if it's before the movie, which would just be a great. They could call it Batman the Retcon.
And then, like, in future years, people would just watch that first, and then watch Batman vs. Superman, and maybe it becomes a better movie.
It's like a reverse of the Star Wars prequels.
Exactly. Amanda, you were a big fan of Batman vs. Superman. Are you also super on board for Batman, whatever they're going to call it?
Yeah, I think that Batman vs. Superman intrigued me to see more of it. I think it did its job in making me want to see more of his life and be along for his struggles.
All right, so everybody seems to be on board. I would echo that as well. I'm fine seeing more Ben Affleck as that character, and let's just get away from the character of Superman, and I think we'll be all right. So, sticking with the comic book world here, rumors flying from everywhere on the internet this week that Michael Keaton may be in talks to play the villain in, I guess they're calling it Spider-Man Homecoming. Is that the official title for the next Spider-Man film?
Unfortunately, it seems like it is.
Spider-Man Homecoming, that seems like a bizarre title, and apparently Michael Keaton may be playing the main villain there. So, Dan, what do you think of Michael Keaton going back now to the comic book world?
You mean after Birdman, of course? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's been killing it lately with Spotlight and everything else, so I mean, he's been doing no wrong. I'm not sure if he's playing the villain who he would play. I've heard rumors of people saying, like, Carnage, which I guess is possible. I just hope he doesn't play Norman Osborn or Green Goblin, just because I feel like we've had our full on that character. So
it's so weird sometimes in these comic book films, especially the ones that have had, like Batman and Spider-Man have probably been the ones that have been done the most. They have a lot of villains, or am I saying this right? Members of their like rogues gallery. Is that how you say it? Okay.
Spider-Man is one of the best. He's got tons of people to choose from. So.
But it seems like in the films they like to continue to go back to a certain group of them over and over and over again. Matt, do you think that there's a certain character that Michael Keaton would be a good fit for in Spider-Man?
Well, actually, I searched up Michael Keaton Birdman because I don't remember what the Birdman suit looked like, and I was like, what does he look like nowadays in like a superhero, supervillain costume? And honestly, just the regular Michael Keaton pictures associated with that movie, like, he could probably do a decent Carnage. A little old, but he could look the part for sure.
Amanda, what do you think about Michael Keaton being a villain this time instead of a hero in the superhero film?
All I can think about is when he was in Batman, and he's like, "Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts!" And he like broke some stuff. Like, I think he can get nuts and play villain.
All right, I'm intrigued as well. I'd like to see him more on the villain side. I don't know, who he'd play and how it would all work out, but I just hope that they change the title of that film at some point before it comes out. So.
Sounds like a bad high school dance.
Well, it sounds like a made-for-TV like animated film or something.
They said that they're trying to go like a John Hughes type of vibe, so I don't know, but
geez.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
They're gonna all be in detention.
He's the one that did Breakfast Club and 16 Candles.
Oh man, I feel so old right now.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Homecoming is actually Marvel's hands saying like, we want to show our dominance and how we're helping you, so it's coming home, and that has to be the name.
Also, a lot of rumors flying around that there will be more Marvel characters showing up in that Spider-Man film, because apparently we'll never have just a single film with a superhero again in the Marvel universe. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Other news, kind of off the wall, I guess, but for those of you that were holding your breath and waiting, you don't have to wait, I guess, too much longer. Bill and Ted 3 confirmed to have a script, director, studio, and both Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves on board. They're just waiting for a specific date to start filming. Amanda, based on your visible reaction that nobody can see because this is a podcast, I'll let you go first.
I don't have words. I literally stopped what I was doing to listen. I perked up a little bit. I'm excited for that. What?
Bill and Ted.
But they're old as fuck now, so what's going to
Keanu Reeves is old?
Dude.
He doesn't age.
He does age.
When would he have time? He's in the John Wick sequel. Just focus on John Wick, Keanu.
Yeah, but John Wick and Bill and Ted
coming out
doesn't work.
Dan, is there any need for a Bill and Ted 3?
Oh, of course there's major need for it. I mean, I'm surprised they got Alex Winter. His schedule's so booked. Like, how they...
And the quote was, it wasn't confirmed by Keanu Reeves. It was Alex Winter saying that Keanu Reeves was part of this. So maybe he's just hopeful. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I really do find those films actually enjoyable, especially Bogus Journey. I hope Death comes back and Saddle and Station.
Is Death still alive?
I don't know. I don't know if that guy's still alive or not. I'm not sure.
Matt, weigh in on this. Bill and Ted 3. Are you excited?
No. I don't.
Why? What is wrong with you?
Here's the thing. I'm not gonna rain on someone else's parade. If they want Bill and Ted 3, they can have it. Like,
give it to me.
Yeah, no, make it. Make 4, 5, 6. Like, that's not...
Make 4, 6.
Like, like, Bill and Ted doesn't have that artistic integrity that something like Avatar should have. Like, where it's like, we did something amazing, and it was the first, and we're gonna leave it and have it on this pedestal. Bill and Ted is just a fun movie that, I probably would even see it if someone paid for it. Like, I don't know, it's been 25 years since the last one. That's a long time. Like, I can't see either of those characters should probably end up washed up dudes on their couch, or stoners, more so than...
You were Johnny on the spot with the date there. I'm impressed.
I went to IMDb for a few reasons. One, to figure out how old Keanu Reeves is, and I can confirm he was in that painting from 400 years ago, so he probably doesn't age.
Nice.
All right, I got another news story that is I just wanted to share because I know it's going to make at least a couple of us groan. Next on Disney's list to receive live-action treatment, we have to do this every couple months. Apparently, they want to take it to, what was it, Warner Brothers that did Peter Pan last year? Or whoever did the Pan movie from 2015 that was awful. So apparently Disney wants to do it right. So Peter Pan has been added to the slate for Disney's live-action treatment. If you haven't been keeping track, we already have on that schedule sequels to Alice in Wonderland, Maleficent. They've already just started talking about a sequel to Jungle Book, which is just being released in theaters, a Beauty and the Beast live-action film with Emma Watson, and a Tinkerbell live-action film with Reese Witherspoon, and of course Tinkerbell is also in the Peter Pan universe, so none of that makes sense to me. Dan, is Disney going crazy with all their different live-action stuff? I mean, do we need another Peter Pan?
No, we do not. They did it so greatly last time. Why do it again? It is. They did. Didn't they do one like in 2000? I could have sworn there was like another live-action one around that time.
I think that the article said that this would be Disney's third film that had to deal with live-action Peter Pan characters.
I guess if you count Hook in that, so
yeah. So
I mean, yeah, why not a Hook sequel? What's Rufio doing? He can definitely do. I guess he's dead, so that doesn't count.
Oh man,
Rufio's dead.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, isn't everybody involved in that film dead?
We mean the character, not the actual actor. But sorry, but I don't know.
Rufio did die. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the actual dude. I'm like, wait.
I thought we were making a bad Robin Williams joke.
Yeah,
oh no, jeez, I didn't even consider that.
It's terrible.
Oh man,
okay.
Sorry.
Let's stop this conversation immediately.
This went down a dark path. But anyways, no to Peter Pan.
Amanda, I know you like Peter Pan, but we're already getting a Tinkerbell film. Do they need a Peter Pan one as well?
I really give two shits about Tinkerbell, but the whole ensemble, yes, I am always down to see a live action Peter Pan. I've even gone to see like plays and musicals where Peter Pan is played by a lady. Like I don't know. I like the universe. I like the lore. I dig it. This last little rendition with
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman, yeah. Not right at all. So I think
right.
Disney was like, no, we can just scrub that and show you guys how it's done.
Yeah, that's definitely not a Disney film from last year, so we don't want to mix that up.
We damn sure don't need 800 Robin Hoods.
There's only going to be 4 of those. Matt, what do you think? Weigh in on this whole live-action Disney stuff.
I don't know. Like, Disney is, I think, finally making its power play. It's got Marvel, it's got Star Wars, and it's had little girls for the last 60 years. And it's now just going to just juggernaut its way through the film industry and just leave us with no other options. Like, I mean, I haven't seen any of the Alice in Wonderland live actions. Maleficent was okay. I don't know if I'm going to see the Jungle Book. Like, Beauty and the Beast doesn't super excite me. Like, it's all these things. It's like, I don't want to say, hey, don't make these, because like there are gonna be people like Amanda that want to see them, But at the same time, it's like,
Just like me.
you're not going to get my money. You're already getting it at Star Wars. I saw that 5 times. I'm going to see the next one 5 times.
I'm kind of hit or miss with the Disney live action stuff. Some of the stuff I'm not as excited for. Some of the stuff I am. I'm down for the Beauty and the Beast live action film. I could care less about Tinkerbell. Even though I somewhat did like the first Maleficent more than a lot of people, I don't necessarily need a sequel to that. I'm super excited about Jungle Book, but that doesn't mean I'd be excited.
For no reason.
That doesn't mean I'd be excited for a Jungle Book sequel. So I don't know. It's a lot of hit or miss for me for that. But I'm definitely not on board for any more Peter Pan by any studio. Just let that character.
Why? He doesn't die. He doesn't age. You gotta keep this shit going.
Maybe if they waited 10 years in between, but making one every 3 years
so
is
people
a little
can
overkill.
hang around with a bad taste in their mouth about Hugh Jackman and his teeth and his hair and whatever pants he was wearing.
the rock
Pointy shoes.
opera that they put on.
I want to see this Pan. I wanted to see
No,
it.
you don't.
Every time everyone talks about it, it's I need to see this.
They sing Nirvana.
They are singing Nirvana.
Okay, that's weird.
As a group. All right, let's move on from Disney stuff here to go to a different studio. Universal in 2017 will be putting out an animated feature which features the Grinch, and it's just been released that the voice of the Grinch in that feature will be done by Benedict Cumberbatch.
The Batch.
Amanda, what do you think about a new feature involving the Grinch?
I super enjoy watching the original animated work still to this day, no matter how old I am. And say what you will, judge away, but I really, really like the Jim Carrey live-action Grinch. I think it's hilarious. I love to rewatch that one, too. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, though, so I just kind of suckered in from the get-go, but I think he was amazing as kind of this quirky Grinch or whatever. But the Batch, you can't say no to him being the voice of anything, really. Pretty sure.
Dan, do you think he fits as a voice or bringing the Grinch to life?
I think so. Seeing some of his voice work and just thinking of what he did with Smog and things like that. So he certainly has that type of voice to him. I mean, to me, the original animated one holds up so well. I don't know if necessarily you need to do a sequel or do a remake or whatever this is called, but I'm glad that they're going the animated route rather than live action, though I've actually never seen the live action version of Grinch, so I can't miss.
You're not missing much. What? Anyway.
I'm going to break your stuff over here.
Okay.
Things are getting violent, jeez.
They are. She's holding Indiana Jones hostage here. Going into the last news story for today, not everybody obviously gets excited about score as much as some people do, but they have released that the person in charge of doing the score for Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which we already knew was not going to be John Williams, is going to be Alexander Desplat. I can never say his name right. So, Dan, you know of him and his work. Do you think that's a good choice for the score for Rogue One?
I mean, he's taken over for John Williams already before with the Harry Potter movies, and I've enjoyed his scores there. He's somewhat hit or miss for me. He's done a lot of just, I feel, forgettable scores, yet there were for movies that necessarily didn't need a really powerful score. So I think, looking at some of his more notable work, he certainly has the ability to do so, and I mean, it's kind of sad seeing John Williams not do a Star Wars movie, but if someone, I think he's at least one of the few people that has the opportunity, knowing he's already done it before.
Matt, are you sad also by the fact that we'll have our first Star Wars film not done by John Williams?
Well, are we discounting the other 3 Star Wars films not done by John Williams? Because we had a theatrical release between the Clone Wars movie, and then both of the Ewoks movies did not have John Williams' involvement.
Those do not count.
Whoa! the Clone Wars theatrical release is actually canon still, unlike the other 2. I don't know anything about this guy. I'm hopeful for anything. John Williams is 84.
Yeah, I wonder how much of
is he
this
that young?
voice he even does at this point. He's just
It's like Star Wars every couple of years.
They just let him wave the stick standing up there, and somebody else stands behind him and actually conducts things.
Nonsense. Hey, he's on there's a whole special feature on the Force Awakens DVD just about him. I haven't watched it yet, but going into the music behind that film. But
he's actually like an animatron robot. Like.
so wrong. All right, so that does it for the news this week. You'll have to give us your thoughts on any of those things we covered, and if you agree or disagree with any of our takes on that stuff. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to continue our video game series, and we're going to get into 1994's Double Dragon.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles.
Because the world needs another podcast, we are here as Geekcast Radio's newest edition.
And as the title says, each week we get lost in conversation about a wide range of topics, including movies, comics, games, art, TV, and even occasionally sports.
We play games and discuss pivotal topics like who would win in a fight, the Kool-Aid Man or Tony the Tiger, and examine the hot-button issues of the world of geekdom.
We keep things fresh by taking timeless topics in new directions.
We are simply three friends having a fun time talking about life's most fascinating foibles.
Stay connected with us every Tuesday on iTunes or at geekcastradio.com.
All right, so we're interrupting a little bit here on the old Cinema Geeks as you're listening to this this great show hosted by Optimus Solo and Handy Candyman to pimp out our own show. You know, we're just kind of butting in and
just doing what we do every day, right? Butting in, being rude, claiming territory that might not be ours.
Yeah, throwing our 2 cents in and you know, hopefully, you know, getting a couple people interested in our show.
There you go. Which more people should be because it's a fantastic show. Award-winning.
Yeah.
Award-winning. Geekcast Radio Network award-winning.
Oh, that's right. We did win an award on there. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So if you want to see, you know, more of what the Geekcast Radio Network likes, you know, come check out our show, the True Romance Film Podcast. We're a movie review podcast, similar to the classy Cinema Geeks are doing, but you know, a little more drunk and a little more rambunctious.
A little drunker, a little crazier, but yeah. Oh, you also forgot Movie Revolt Dan. We can't leave Movie Revolt Dan out.
No, a guest of our show a couple of times.
Former guest. There you go.
Right.
Yes. So check it out. You will not be disappointed every time. How about that?
I don't know.
Give it at least 2. Give it at least 2. I think is the best way to be. But
so check us out. When you're done listening to the Cinema Geeks, come look us up in iTunes, Stitcher, and all the doodads. Google it. Google the True Romance Film Podcast.
Los Angeles, 2007.
The mystical powers of the dragon are dangerous for one person to possess.
Power.
All right, so where's the on button?
Justice.
It's our responsibility to protect the dragon.
Darkness.
This is only half. Find me the other half.
Light.
Let's kick some butt.
Double. Dragon. Double Dragon.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. As I said before the break, it's time to get into our second of our video game franchise films. We had Super Mario Brothers in our first episode, and now we move 1 year past that into 1994, where we find the film Double Dragon. Before we get into the actual film, just want to give a little bit of background on our intelligence level or our exposure, I guess, to the actual video game. So, Matt, we'll start with you. Did you play Double Dragon as a kid or any version of the different Double Dragon games? And then, I guess, what did you know about the video game before watching the film?
Okay, so I grew up on the NES. I had Double Dragon 1 for sure. I might have had Double Dragon 2, but I was also, like 6. So I don't know if I ever beat anything beyond a Bobo in the first Double Dragon, and I don't remember at all Double Dragon 2 at all. But when I look up the cover, it's like, yeah, that looks familiar.
Oh, that's kind of like I remember playing the game, but I couldn't tell you much about it besides the color that each one wore and kind of what you did in the game, but I didn't really remember any of the ins and outs. It was, when I was growing up, it was more of a presence in like arcades. I mean, I had a lot of the old school video games and television and Pong and the Commodore 64 and stuff like that. But I never...
have no idea what that...
I'll date myself a little bit there. But I never had, like, the NES version. But I remember Double Dragon being, like, one of those things that if you wanted to play it, you had to actually go to an arcade. And since the nearest arcade to me would have required me to convince somebody to drive me like 30 minutes to get to it. I didn't really play.
That's what you get for living in farm country.
I know. So I didn't get to play much of Double Dragon as far as the arcade goes, and I never had it for NES, so I never played it there. I did play it, I think, at some friend's house and whatnot, but I don't know a lot about the video game world and kind of what went into it other than the basic premise. Dan, did you have any exposure to Double Dragon?
I played a little bit of the game, and not a great deal. I remember very little. I just remember being like a side scroller, beat 'em up type of game.
Right.
But I did actually watch the cartoon series of Double Dragon.
Oh man!
Which was
that in the 90s?
It was in the 90s, and it was very 90s. Yeah, it's like you had them wearing like legitimately dragon like heads like at a point in time, and their chests would light up with their different tattoos. It's not very good. I actually watched a few clips from it. I'm like, how did I watch this? It does not hold up very well. But yeah, so I had more exposure to that than the actual game itself.
Okay. And Amanda, did you know Double Dragon was a video game?
Yes, but I never got to play it. I didn't get video game systems until I was like late middle school, high school, because my mom believed in kids playing outside, so she kind of banned them from the house. So I've seen this movie before. That's about it.
Okay. Well, since none of us know too much about the game, Matt, people liked being educated by you when we did Super Mario Brothers, when you went into some of the actual manuals that came with the games and some of the inner stories. Do you have anything similar for us for Double Dragon that you can kind of set the stage before we get into the film?
So I pulled up the manuals for Double Dragon 1, 2, and 3 for the NES, and as far as I can tell, this movie is a half-hearted amalgamation of all three stories. Each one's about a paragraph. I'm going to read them off real quick if that's okay. The first one, Double Dragon, is the story of Billy and Jimmy Lee, twin brothers who learned that to fight on the cold, tough streets of the city. Their expert knowledge of martial arts combined with their street smarts has made them both formidable fighting machines, but now Billy is faced with his greatest challenge. His girlfriend Marion has been kidnapped by the Black Warriors, the savage street gang of the mysterious Shadow Boss. Using whatever weapons come to hand, let's skip that, Billy must pursue the gang through the slums, factories, and wooded outskirts of the city to reach the hideout for his final confrontation with the Shadow Boss, his brother Billy. Which is really weird to have page 1 of the manual ruin the story's twist at the end, but we all know how NES graphics were, and you probably couldn't tell. So, Double Dragon 2 is the Black Shadow Warriors have done the unthinkable. They've gunned down your girl. And now you and your brother Jimmy, apparently friends again, are out for revenge. And then, so this one is a little bit closer. Nuclear war has ravaged the city, and a gang of ruthless criminals, the Black Shadow Warriors, are trying to take over. Their danger with a capital D. Thugs and muggers, tough street... It's so 90s. Thugs and muggers, tough street chicks, greasers and hoods, high jumpers, and karate choppers. That's just a sentence.
High jumpers, those are the ones you gotta worry about.
Dude, the high jumpers. Plus burly bosses, gruesome giants, and freaky androbots.
Nice.
They essentially destroy your dojo and they've killed your girlfriend. And now
your dojo / rundown theater.
Well, it's different. In Double Dragon 2, actually, Billy and Jimmy have become famous for destroying a gang with their kung fu and have actually amassed the students and everything. They're famous for doing that rather than no one knows anything. So in Double Dragon 2, you beat the Black Shadow Warriors, only to find out that Marion is still alive.
Dun dun dun.
Like, your beloved Marion lay as still as a mountain stone, but suddenly the color returns to her lips. Marion lives, and you are now a supreme master with a sense of power greater than you ever imagined possible. So in Double Dragon 3, life has returned to normal, your famous Double Dragon dojo is doing well. Your students are learning the ways of ancient masters and building their strengths. Brett, one of your top students, tries to tell you what happened, but he's cut down before he has a chance. And then it happens. Sudden Marion has disappeared again. It can't be the Black Shadow Warriors. Who is it this time? And then you travel the world looking for the 3 stones of power, which somehow doesn't make it into that paragraph, but is the premise of that game.
All right.
Man,
so
there you go.
So now we know what the games were based on, and I guess that leads... pretty well into our first talk, which is how well we think this film represents the video game. We're not talking about if the film is good or bad, if it's, acting, writing, etc. is good or bad. We're just talking about, does it feel like Double Dragon on the screen? And Amanda, you probably had the least exposure to the game, but based on everything you just heard from Matt, did you feel like you're in a video game world while watching Double Dragon?
I do, yeah. I think that I don't even really know what the word would be to describe it. I want to say cartoony, but it's not. It has like that vibe to it that seems like you're in a video game. Maybe not as in a similar way to Mario Brothers, but I don't know how to compare it to what you actually saw in the game. I would have liked to be able to see like gameplay. Maybe I should have looked that up before I watched this to see. If
Dan watched the damn cartoon.
Yeah, Dan.
Yeah.
It's on you now, bro.
Dan, help out. How well do you think this represents the video game that we either played or at least just heard about?
Well, I think the key word in this was martial arts, and I think I've actually saw more martial arts in Super Mario Brothers than this, if I'm going to be honest. But I don't know how well represents the game. There were little things they did. I mean, considering the fact that the actual game was in the background at one point, it's like, wow, they're really just going to put it right there, are they? Yep, yeah, there you go. But then they did like I don't know, when they saw the one bad guy and you like saw his mugshot that kind of looked like it came from a video game because it was all weird, and some of the special effects looked like they came from the NES, so I guess they kept it that way as well. But I don't know, considering what was said, I don't see this lining up all that much. I mean, they had the gangs and everything, so they kept that, so it's not completely void of lore from the game, but overall, it seemed like it just kind of did its own thing.
I mean, unless you were not in a video game, why wouldn't every vehicle that you touch have like a tracking system and is weaponized and has like this whole database of everybody and they're like how much they can bench press and shit? Of course, that's a total video game feel. I want to jump into any vehicle and know everything about my surroundings and be able to blow whatever I want up.
Your camera you have a camera on your car that somehow is looking over like a satellite, though it's pointing forward. But that's
yeah.
I gotta say, like they inserted a ton of video game graphics, visual things to this that don't seem like they have anything to do with Double Dragon. So I mean, they do have a lot of video game elements, but they're not Double Dragon elements. Like at one point, I thought we were watching like Excitebike or whatever that video game was, or like one of those like old school like pre-NES like racing games when they're doing the different car stuff. Like some of those graphics were just so cheesy and bad, but still video game-esque, but not anything I remember seeing in Double Dragon. So I don't know about that. Matt, do they get points for at least getting the color of the outfits for each brother correct? Where Mario didn't?
I want to say yes, only here's the thing. In the 90s, So I listened to another podcast that's doing essentially the same thing we're doing. They're jumping around, which might be better, although it's probably worse because I think ours are going to get progressively better. And as far as I can tell, in the 90s, all a video game movie had to do was tell the story of how they got into the costume they're in the video game, because that's how almost all of them end, and have a reference to video games in them, and that made them a video game movie. And that's pretty much all this was the story of how they got the outfits they're wearing at the beginning of the first game. But I guess they got the colors right.
So other than that, you're saying it's not a very good representation of the actual game? There is a lot of fighting going on. Maybe not the right type of fighting, but there's fighting going on.
I mean, they clearly drew some elements. They got the post-apocalypse of the second game. They've got the hunting down the items across the world of the third game. They got the names from the first game. But I mean, it's not incredibly faithful, but it's not any more ridiculous than the original games, I guess. As far as story goes, I mean, it doesn't look like them. Like, if you're watching it, you wouldn't go, oh, this is Double Dragon. It doesn't give that feel.
I don't think you would, yeah, if you take the actual Double Dragon pendants, I guess, out of it, and maybe their costumes from the last sequence, I don't know if you'd ever be able to tell that this was Double Dragon unless I guess you heard some of the names being called out. But
Where else is underground karate sparring a thing?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's in training. This is not training. This is like blood sport.
Yeah, I was going to say blood sport, you know.
All right, so maybe not a great representation of the actual video game. How about the actual film itself, Dan? Does it do anything right when it comes to filmmaking?
Wow, anything right? Really? Asking the tough questions when it comes to Double Dragon. Wow. Well,
does it get a point in any column? Like if you're grading all the aspects of film, does it get a check mark anywhere?
It did point the camera in occasions, but I don't want to be too technical, but I guess I would describe this as crazy as a motherfucker.
Amanda liked that one.
I love it when you cuss, man.
There is a point in time in this game. There is like what can only be described as a human-sized giant scrotum of a man that people fight, and yeah, man, it's wow.
Dana's speechless. Let me help you out here. Matt, you emphasize the idea that these two individuals are supposed to be twin brothers. They decided to get Scott Wolf from Party of Five and whatever else he's been in, as well as I don't have the name of the of his twin in this, but he's like legit. Like he played like a Yakuza member in like Hawaii Five-0 like a couple years ago.
Whoa! He's the chairman from Iron Chef America. Like,
oh, is he?
Yeah, Mark Dacascos is the chairman of Iron Chef, and that's what he's going to be most famous for.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think he was in a movie about capoeira, which is also some weird fighting shit.
But either way, these guys are clearly not twins.
No,
or related,
what is going on? or anything. Yes, there's nothing. And what on earth is the casting director doing when they cast Scott Wolf in this role? And then you also have Robert Patrick as the main bad guy, who I guess wasn't supposed to be Asian, but he did take an Asian name later on.
That makes you cooler. People are going to want to party with you then.
And we also have Alyssa Milano as, I guess, a street, I don't know, it's not really a street thug because she's like citizens arrest and whatnot, like street police.
She's
but
vigilante.
Let's call what it is.
Vigilante, yeah. Matt, what did you think about the casting and who they're choosing and how these guys are clearly not twins?
I don't know quite who decided that. Like, it's weird, especially because they were so much younger that their 4-year age difference was a little more apparent than it probably is now in their 50s. I don't know.
Is this a plague of video game films? I mean, they couldn't get two guys that looked like brothers for Mario Brothers.
Right.
They couldn't get two guys that were even the same ethnicity to play brothers in Double Dragon.
But like Double Dragon I don't think offers an explanation. At least in Mario Brothers, the movie's explanation is that Mario found and raised Luigi. If I remember correctly, they're not brothers so much as Mario is more Luigi's dad, but they call each other brothers.
I think it's like uncle, maybe? I don't know. Or just a dude that stole him, maybe?
Yeah, Mario, he doesn't, like, Luigi says something like, I don't have parents, Mario raised me. Like, I don't know quite what's going on there, but at least there's an explanation.
Amanda, what do you think about the setting that they use and kind of this futuristic, apocalyptic, whatever you want to call it? They have New Angeles amongst a bunch of other towns and different things like that. We have this time traveling that we seem to have done at the beginning to get to where we're at, and that is apparently taking place in 2007. What did you think of the whole setting for this film?
I thought it was pretty funny. I think that even all the cameos, like the news anchors were Vanna White, George Hamilton, and then like the weather guy was Andy Dick, and they literally called themselves by their real names. I'm like, well, at least they survived and they're still on TV. That's probably the highlight of the career at this point. But I think that the whole feel of the post-apocalyptic thing, I thought it was cool that the destruction of it was our own. Like, all the smog, all the pollution, like, we did this, and they know that we did this, and it's super apparent throughout. And I think that it had the real, like, Escape from LA vibe. and I was just waiting for
New
Snake
LA.
Plissken to pop out somewhere. I thought it was a nice 90s look. I dig it.
All right. We've talked about villains' motivations before, Dan, when we've been covering different things, and sometimes that's a terrible part of the film. In this one, he literally says that apparently all this guy wants to do is get these two halves of the Double Dragon amulet or pendant or whatever you want to call it, because he just wants complete control over just one American city. Is that the best motivation you've ever seen from a villain?
I mean, it's probably more so than Lex Luthor in Batman vs Superman, but not to bring that. Hey, you know what? You can't blame him.
Just one.
You know, just one city. Like, he's not greedy. He's not asking for it all. Just one city that's kind of a post-apocalyptic mess. But you know,
are we certain that there are any other cities?
They list a bunch of them. There's like New Angeles and New Tokyo and a bunch of new things. They're all new. They're new, but not, because they've all been destroyed. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. Matt, did they go over the line? Did they go too cheesy with this, with some of the stuff? Because we have in one situation.
Well, it's 90s.
But I'm just saying, in one situation we have somebody tripping on gumballs and falling into a stroller. We have one guy that gets his his ponytail closed in a briefcase, and then is later on, like scenes later, seen holding the briefcase up to his head because he still can't get it off, apparently. We have, like Dan said, the Double Dragon arcade game showing up in blatant fashion.
Tag team underground karate.
Did it go too far to the humorous attempts in this, or what did you think about the humor in this?
I'd say that the humor is probably one of the best parts of this movie, and that to remove would make. We
also had the good old map trick where you throw a map out of your car, and it just like blinds the car behind you.
Oh, love it. Like, I don't know, like, these are the elements that make this movie more watchable. If they took all these out and then just made it just a boring, dry kung fu movie with no kung fu in it, like, it would just fall flat. Like, there'd be no reason to watch it, and I'd just be miserable. At least with what it had, like, you know, I mean, some things I wouldn't like the force-feeding Abobo spinach and fart jokes and stuff. Don't need that. But, like, knocking a gumball machine over and tripping a Yakuza member, like, hilarious. Go for it. I mean,
there's a lot of actual parallels between this and Super Mario Brothers. If you took Toad in place of the Abobo character, and you still have the two brothers, and I don't know, there's a lot of ties to these two. Amanda, I know you were a fan of the music in this one. I don't remember which 90s song was featured the most, but I know you started jamming out during that.
There were several that I could jam to. I have a soft spot to 90s dance music, and I think like 100% Pure Love or something was playing in this. I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere, but I'm not seeing it. But I think that... Okay, speaking of cheese... apparently a can of Easy Cheese is the equivalent to a can of Nos in the vehicles here, because that worked like a charm.
Well, it destroyed their engine, though.
They have a pretty super cool fuel system, though. They can burn about everything, even the shirts off their own back, to keep driving. I think that's something we need now. You know what I mean? I think people will think twice about using a little fuel if they have to burn their own shirts to get to work. I think that the cheese and the humor and all the cool 90s aspects and their sweet outfits definitely made it more watchable than Mario, I would say. Maybe just a touch, a scotch, better than Mario. And I think that it was laughable and silly, but it's what got me through the movie, and especially seeing it like more than once. I don't know why I even tried to watch it the first time, but seeing it this time I remembered a lot of it after viewing it again. And like, who doesn't think butthead is like the ultimate derogatory slur? I mean, two-face, butthead, I don't know what they were saying, but...
Oh man. Dan, getting into the writing is the last thing I have on my notes here. We had token lawyer jokes. We had the reporters pleading for the gangs. Maybe they're just misunderstood. The gangs have rights too.
But the gangs are like straight out of the Warriors.
Yeah. And my favorite part, or maybe least favorite part, they have the classic "Who's the boss" line.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Like, that was amazing. Yeah, ask Alyssa Milano, who's the boss now? That was. a pinnacle.
That's so bad.
As all.
Is the writing the worst part of this, Dan?
Oh, the worst part? That's a good question. I would say
it's up there.
It's one of the top 3. It's certainly in the top 3. Just some of the ridiculousness of it. I always feel bad for Robert Englund because he tries to sell it as much as he can. I mean,
but what is his power? Like, is he Peter Pan's shadow? Is he
Robert Patrick?
I'm sorry, Robert Patrick.
Oh.
I say Robert Englund? Yeah. I don't even know.
England, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he turns into like this gray, like Gumby, or not Gumby, like the cardboard cutout. That's like
he's like this embossed, like look, dude. He's basically.
But that was a better
shadow.
effect than some of the other things. Like the effect on that, I forget the name of the girlfriend or the sister or the person that cared for them. Her face when it comes up at the end after they've transformed with little stars.
I thought it was super cool though when he leaves her body that one time, and then that you see the shadow for the first time.
That's what I'm saying.
Crossing.
It seems like every once in a while they could do a visual effect,
But
and
then
then
he
the other
like
times
touched the
they're
piano. Like I thought it was cool how they actually
Yeah, but then at other times it was
incorporated
like they literally. It was something I could have done on like my IBM back in the day and put like a stamp of something and then put stars around it, and all of a sudden it was in a movie. The visual effects were all over the place. And speaking of effects, I guess the only trivia I had for this one was in the scene where they're on the river or whatever it was, where they set off all those.
River is flammable.
Yeah, that's flammable. Apparently, though, that river in real life has caught fire 3 different times, I guess,
really?
Because of the amount of pollution that's in that river.
Nice.
I don't know if my sources are reliable or not, but I read that somewhere. And then I also read that explosion that they did had so much. There was, I don't know how many gallons of gasoline or alcohol or whatever they used, but the explosion, I guess they didn't let anybody in the neighboring area know what they were doing, or nobody knew that there was a movie being shot or something, because I guess when that happened, like there was over 100 911 calls.
Nice.
Around the area because people were concerned, but
they probably filmed it and used some of those police footages for the movie.
Exactly. We'll go around and give everybody a chance to have any other final thoughts or things they did not get off of their notes about Double Dragon, as well as a score out of 10 for Double Dragon. And obviously this is only the second film we've done, so I guess it's pretty hard not to compare it directly to Super Mario's and say that at this point if it's better or worse. Matt, we'll start with you. Any other notes on Double Dragon, and where do you score this one?
This movie is a side-scroller the game is a side-scroller beat-em-up. The movie should have just been that one single-take shot from Old Boy, where the guy walks from one end of the hall to the other end of the hall beating people up. It should have just been that 4 times in a row, with a Bobo at the end, credits. Like, we've shot a movie that was Double Dragon, why don't we just shoot that movie and call it Double Dragon? That's my only thing. 5 out of 10. It had its funny moments, and I wasn't too upset with it.
5 out of 10. That's a generous score, possibly.
Isn't that like high failing? Like, because it's like school grade.
I think it's like right at that borderline. I guess it depends on how you kind of view the whole 10-point scale. I guess for me, 5 is in that middle ground. It's not bad. It's not good. It's like right in the middle.
It's somewhere between 4 and 5 then.
Okay. Dan, what about you? Any other final thoughts, and what grade would you give Double Dragon? Is it better or worse than Super Mario Brothers?
I would say it's worse. I think I felt Super Mario Brothers was probably more competently made. There were just things in this that were insane for many different reasons than just, I don't know. It felt like in a way though, like almost like a Paul Verhoeven movie, especially with like that man I mentioned with like Vanna White and Scott Hamilton doing the news and Andy Dick showing up for no apparent reason. Like you felt like it was straight out of like a RoboCop and how they would have those different scenes, but not nearly as good. And it's a strange film. Like there's just things that go on that, you know, it's like The Warriors is a good example. It's like if you took The Warriors and added the tone of the Three Ninjas movies from the 90s, and that's what you made as a movie. That's kind of this. I just think it's so questionable decisions. It's so super cheesy at times, overly cheesy. It's a lot of special effects. I think even for the time, were not really fantastic. And well, I think even like sometimes like the extras and their acting, it's just so bad. So there's a scene where they're trying to like break into this, like they're like in a house next to the river, and they're like trying to bang on the door. I'm like, no one's even trying Like it's like they're barely putting any effort in. It's like, why even? It's like
punch this, but don't punch it hard because it might actually break.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I agree that I would not want to watch this movie if it wasn't at least somewhat humorous and it kept that cheese, though. It'd probably be unbearable if this was like a dark and gritty version of Double Dragon. That would be awful.
I mean, don't forget Tom Arnold and Madonna married and divorcing.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Madonna married Tom
Arnold.
Arnold.
They really knew what was happening in the future. They really did that. They got
all those things right.
There's so many.
Why couldn't they predict Charlie Sheen getting AIDS? Pretty sure that should have been on there.
Dang.
Man.
Too soon?
No, not.
And then you would have it was like a random sequence where you have this river where people are like some reason on a tour of of like all the dead bodies that are now in the river, like some like
take a tour of this post-apocalyptic rundown city.
Yeah, that somehow
this river that's flammable.
Yeah, that like at night is like this post-apocalyptic world, but during the day it's like fine, normal. Good to go.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about the police that apparently give up at night and let the gangs rule the world, and then the whole struggle to take the night back.
Yeah,
that was a good subplot there that we had.
But
I think that's like a dance song somewhere.
Some of the sets here look like a lot of fun to be on. I guess the fashion is phenomenal. Of course, Melissa Milano's gang kind of looks like the rejected dancers from In Living Color.
Her acting and her fighting was terrible.
Oh my god, at times it was just,
Her job was to be pretty though. Like they made that very clear.
Oh, they did, especially that one scene. I'm like, wow, yeah, all right. But I would say it's worse. I think it's. I'm glad I watched this in chunks, and I can imagine sitting down and watching this all at once. So I would give this probably like a 2 out of 10. Honestly, I was not a big fan.
Okay, Amanda. We have a 2 out there and a 4/5 somewhere in there for Matt. What do you give Double Dragon, and anything else you didn't get to talk about from your notes?
I actually dug some of the sweet 90s visuals. I think that it brings you back to like some kind of nostalgia place. Even if you don't have any love for the video game, you can still go back to that time period and kind of appreciate all the crazy and living color stuff that you see. They had a sweet ass money system. Like, they had the little voice activated and the check thing popped out. It looked like one of those little punch cards that you take tests on and stuff that you fill in little bubbles. That was pretty legit. And they're cool oxygen booths. So instead of phone booths, we have oxygen booths. I'm like, that could be pretty handy in that area. Even now, today, I think people would use that.
If you need that, though, how are you walking around?
It's not like they're physically incapable of breathing, but the air is so bad that they put a quarter in this thing and get some oxygen.
We get to a point,
but like
in the future, like that.
The thing that bothered me about things like that, little elements like that, is that like you see these guys doing heavy physical activity and never once going to an oxygen booth, and then you see like a businessman who's like, I can't make my morning walk.
It's some pure oxygen.
It's a weird inconsistency that I've totally forgotten about.
I thought it was funny. I would say I give it a 3.5, 4, just because it was funny. I liked it, I enjoyed it. If my kids are like, if I had some 11, 12-year-old over at my house and I'm like, hey, stop bugging me, watch this Double Dragon movie. Something,
What did they do for the punishment? It's awful. Oh man, I would not wish that on anybody. Okay, so you and Matt are slightly above Super Mario Brothers in the score you gave on it. What did you give Super Mario Brothers? I can't even remember, Amanda.
I think I gave it like a 3.
Okay. Dan, you're a little bit lower on this one than Super Mario Brothers. I'm actually going to give it the exact same score. I'm going to sit on a 3 for both of them. For a while, I was thinking I was going to give this one just a slight, like, half point above Super Mario Brothers, but it's just, I feel like it's almost the same movie. I mean, I get that they're different characters and a little bit of a different setting and whatnot, but they seem to have all of the same types of issues. This one is a little bit more cheesy, a little bit worse in the writing maybe, definitely worse in the acting, but I feel like it maybe was a tiny bit better representation of the game, and that's still saying it's awful. So I'm at a 3 out of 10 for both of these. Paul Dini was one of the writers on this, and he's an actually decent writer who's done a ton of excellent stuff, especially in the cartoon world. I don't know what he was doing with this. Maybe he was only co-writer, so maybe the other guy wrote most of this. I'm going to give him a pass, but this is not we're not off to a good start. Super Mario Brothers and Double Dragon are both movies that I would never wish on anybody to watch. So, all right, you're going to have to let us know what you think on our takes on Double Dragon by commenting on the website. But before we get to that, we do have to talk about what's coming out. So we got some Blu-ray releases as well as some theater releases to real quickly go over. Biggest Blu-ray releases coming out this next week are The Revenant from last year. We have Norm of the North. We have Misconduct, which is must be straight to video. The Lady in the Van. IP Man 3. Ip Man 3. And then as far as theater releases, we have, of course, The Jungle Book, Barbershop, The Next Cut, Criminal, and Green Room, and some limited video-on-demand releases, Rio, I Love You, Sing Street, Colonia, and The Adderall Diaries. Dan, which one out of all that strikes your fancy the most?
Man, there's a list.
I didn't even go over some of the collections that are out there for DVDs.
I think I do enjoy the first Ip Man. I still haven't seen the second one, but I'm going to go with The Jungle Book, seeing it in theaters.
I will echo that. I can't wait. I don't know why, but I'm for some reason more excited than I thought I would be even about that one. So I'm also going to say Jungle Book. Amanda, what do you got?
Even though I think Barbershop, The Next Cut's going to be on fleek, I would probably see Jungle Book instead.
Man. Matt, I know you're not as excited about Jungle Book. Anything on that list that does excite you?
Nope. I'm going to say the same thing Dan said, where it's like, I've seen the first Ip Man, it was good. Ip Man 3 is probably decent, but Jungle Book's probably the most interesting.
All right. So we'll have to see how it all turns out. As far as some site feedback, I wanted to get into that. We sometimes don't have time to get into that, but I wanted to go back to our actual Super Mario Brothers episode and give at least some shout-outs to the people that were commenting on that and give you guys a chance to kind of react. Brian Jackson, he had the following to say: I am of the opinion there are some good video game movies, just none that have 100% successfully translated the game into movie form. Doom is a good example, in my opinion. It's like an updated Aliens with a slight mix of the game. I think if it got a sequel, it would have been even better and more like the Doom we know and love. Tron and Wreck-It Ralph are probably the best video game movies just because no one has to compare them to anything, so they can take video game concepts and do whatever with them. I guess that's why we're kind of eliminating anything that's not directly based on a video game and not including stuff like Tron and Wreck-It Ralph. But yeah, I mean, decent comments. I haven't seen Doom, so I'm going to have to wait and see on that one to see if that fits what he's saying. But I'm so far, yeah, 100% successfully translating the game into movie has not happened.
I would argue that Mortal Kombat is like 99%.
Well, we'll have to wait and see when we get there. From Super Film Fan 98, it was great to hear Matt on again. So, Matt, there you go.
Hey, he's my favorite one. Take that. Shoot, I had it. Fred Savage, you're number 2 now. I don't even know if you still listen, but you were number 1 for a year.
He also says, I learned a great amount about Mario, something I was not expecting. Hilarious episode overall. Everyone, I can't wait for more of this series. Thanks for the kind comments there, and hopefully we do the same with this episode. Hopefully you like it just as much. We also had Brad Lincoln. I'm with you there as far as the knowledge about the Mario games. No idea those games had actual stories, so you're enlightening more than one person, Matt. And then Haley Bailey, you guys are brave souls if you are going through all the video game movies made. My God, there are a lot of bad ones. Really enjoyed this episode, though, and can't wait for you all to take on Double Dragon, which we just did. If you think this movie is bad, talking about Super Mario Brothers, you haven't seen anything yet. So apparently she's with you, Dan, that Double Dragon is even worse. Are we brave souls, or are we just... Is there something wrong with our heads, Dan?
I think we are pioneers. No, I don't know.
And then also Brad Lincoln again. Am I the only one that didn't know there was a Double Dragon movie? No, and I'm sorry that we let you know that there was one. So you probably would have been better off still thinking that there was not a Double Dragon movie. Question for next week for all those guys and whoever else is listening that we haven't heard from. Number 1, are you looking forward to more Avatar films? I want to know if we're in the minority that's not necessarily excited about that, or maybe there's a lot of people out there that are just brimming and waiting for that. And how would you rate Double Dragon? do you guys think it was better or worse than Super Mario Brothers, the only two films that we've talked about up to this point? All right, anything that you guys didn't get to talk about as far as video game films, Double Dragon, anything you guys watched this week that you really wanted to give a quick shout-out and either recommend or not recommend, Dan?
I did watch the sequel to Hunger Games 2. I was like the last one left to see that movie, and I would say don't watch it because...
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did not think that was good at all.
We saw The Boss.
We did see The Boss, and Amanda, would you recommend that or not?
I would totally recommend it.
Nobody's surprised at that.
I lost my shit a couple times in this movie.
She was laughing
right
before the movie even began.
No, that's not true.
Like
the
opening
scene,
sequence,
I
she's
lost
already
it.
dying.
We were like, there's like 3 other couples, but they were like older people, and I just didn't even care. Like, I didn't not keep my composure at all. I was dying. I was fucking cracking up, popcorn falling out of my mouth, pop coming out of my nose. I don't even know. I was just laughing. It was over the top and completely outrageous in some spots, but I really dig her brash, like, hard truth humor, and her little jabs at everybody are so witty and amazing, and I just want to be on a show called Make That Girl Cry with her and could crush it. And I think I'm pretty sure that they made this movie like based on my mom. My mom is like a bigger lady. She's got red hair. Her name is Michelle, and her favorite line when I was growing up was because I'm the boss. I'm the boss, that's why. So I just want my mom to see this movie too, so we can laugh about it together. But some of the See You Next Tuesday jokes and all that, I know that I was listening to True Bromance today, and they were kind of complaining about her fall down, or her getting hurt humor thing that kind of juts back to like Farley. But I think that she definitely did take Chris Farley's place in that realm, and I think that she's just kind of giving people what they want to see right now, and we always kind of tend to want the schlumpy lady to fall down the stairs and shatter her pelvis and whatever she says. I think that there was definitely a lot of moments where I was LOLing for real, which doesn't always happen. In comedies, when I laugh, I geek out. But if
we
I
heard
don't
that
think
earlier.
you cannot. But if it's not funny to me, I'm not gonna give anything from it. And I think that it's in comedies, I'm not easily one to laugh, believe it or not, and this definitely got some laugh out loud moments for me. I enjoyed it.
What would you give it out of 10?
I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. It was solid. I'm not saying it's the best of the year or anything, but I really enjoyed it. I had fun. Yeah.
This is one of my least anticipated films of the year based on the trailer. I thought it looked, and I'm not a Melissa McCarthy hater. I did like Spy. I thought the trailer looked awful. I was not looking forward to this film. I will say it was better than I expected, and I would give this one a 4 out of 10. So I was expecting to be like in the 1-2 range, and I'll boost it up to a 4. So that would be my take on that. Matt, anything you saw TV-wise, movie-wise that you wanted to give either a recommend or not?
I'm not really watching a whole lot. Me and my Gundam buddies, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, are watching the Blu-ray releases of the Zeta Gundam series, probably arguably the best Gundam series of all time. So I would always recommend that. But
right.
And that's it.
All right, and the only other thing that I think we watched here was a rewatch of the Huntsman film, because I had no recollection of what was actually going on in that film, just to, I guess, be ready for the next Huntsman film. So I don't know, I'd probably sit at like a 5 out of 10 on that one, because I think there's some problems there that I think there's going to be more problems after we see the next one with some continuity things and whatnot, but we'll have to wait and see how that works. So, all right, thanks as always for tuning into the Cinema Geeks this week. You can contact us in a bunch of different ways. Visit the website. That's one of the best ways to get involved in the conversation, geekcastradio.com. Find the episode post, comment there. We will reply, respond, or interact with you on there. At least one of us will. You can visit the Facebook page by searching Geekcast Radio Network, and then you can keep up to date with all the new releases of Cinema Geeks, of Dan's other show, Talking in Circles, a bunch of the different review shows for He-Man, etc., as well as a new project that Dan and I are taking on that should be coming out relatively soon. And you can also interact with us directly on Twitter. The network is at Geekcast Radio. The show Twitter is at Cinema Geekcast. Dan, your Twitter is?
I'm at Movie Revolt.
Matt, your Twitter is?
I am at Fridley Scent.
Amanda?
Hard Candy Mandy, eyes, no lies.
And mine is at Optimus Solo. So if you have any questions for us or want to get involved in any type of discussion with us directly, Twitter is probably the best way to do that. But that is it for us. Be sure to check in next time for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.